Hello my friends, it's me again and welcome to my channel. And today we'll briefly tackle on one of the questions being asked of me as a new NP is, how do I do rounds in my dialysis clinics? Okay, so here's the situation. You accepted the job and now you've shadowed an NP for a few months and you already got your credentialing done. It's your turn now to round your patients on your own. Now, all of us have this butterflies in our stomach and asking ourselves, how am I going to do this rounding on my own now? Well, these following topics that I'm going to discuss now will be applicable to every patient you see. And even if you're in a different facility, they're the same topics that you're going to be discussing with the patients every time you round with them. So let's go over them, right? As a nephrology NP, I usually focused on 3 or 4 topics with each patient. That's actually applicable to every patient you have. And you don't have to spend too much time with them because, you know, if you have a lot of clinics to cover, then you'll be able to get a gist of what's going on with the patient with these questions. The topics I usually discuss with them are their weight gains, their anemia level, their phosphates, and of course their diet too. We're going to go over each and every one of these questions in the shortest way possible so that when you actually round these patients, you'll be able to get out there in due time and catch up on the next facility that you're going to be covering. So the first thing that you're going to be talking with the patient is about their weight gains, because that's mostly one of the main reasons why they go to dialysis is to get some fluid off their system because of fluid overload. You know, you check their pre-dialysis weight gains and see how much they've gained since your last visit. Of course, if you have patients that are chronic gainers, you're going to have to continue explaining to them why the need for limiting fluids and the dangers of overload. And some patients will not be as cooperative as you thought you would be. But as a nephrology nurse practitioner, one of your jobs is to educate them on the dangers and the consequences of fluid overload and the importance of coming to their treatment to get fluids off their system so that they will not suffer any shortness of breath or other issues at home due to excess fluid intake. Now, the next topic you're going to be discussing with your patients is all about anemia levels. Now, people with CKD stage 5 and on dialysis are going to be having problems with producing hemoglobin and increasing their red blood cells because of the kidney impairment. Their ability to produce red blood cells is also impaired because the kidney usually secretes a hormone that would tell your flat bones in the body, which is where marrow is actually located, and to produce more red blood cells. Now, with people on dialysis, we usually give a synthetic form of this hormone, and we check their hemoglobin levels on a weekly basis. The aim usually is reaching a hemoglobin level of 11, and we titrate the medication depending on the levels we get. Now, usually patients with hemoglobin of less than 10 is very common. It's very easy to fix with the medication, but you're going to also check on the trends of your anemia levels. Some of these patients actually drop down from a 10, and then next week they're going to drop to a 9, and then drop to 8, and which also you should titrate your medication into higher doses. But once you reach to a point that they're already on their max dose and they're still trending down, you're going to have to ask if these patients are actually have problems with bleeding. They could be actively bleeding somewhere, like bleeding inside their gut, nosebleeds, gum bleeding, or people who actually take blood thinners, and when they do have issues at home and bleed, that can also drop their hemoglobin levels. So when you notice this kind of trend going down, you discuss with the patient Do you have any active bleeding going on? Do you have nosebleeds? Are your gums bleeding all the time when you brush your teeth, or when you actually move your bowels? Do you see any blood? Is it fresh blood? Do you have black tarry stools? This is the time you're going to be concerned about losing a lot of blood. And usually with my patients, if despite the fact that they are already getting the max dose of the synthetic EPO or erythropoietin to help them increase their blood levels, then I usually start handing them stool samples. Well, occult blood testing, in which they can actually kind of bring home and have a sample of their stool put on and have it sent to the laboratory to check for any signs of bleeding inside their system. This is something that you're going to always be experiencing on every patient. It'll also help you make aware of any conditions that may affect their blood levels, particularly infections, people with lupus, and people with iron deficiencies. So make sure you check their anemia levels every week, and be cognizant of any signs of anemia by watching the trends all the time. Now, the next topic we're going to be discussing with the patients is phosphorus levels. Now, phosphorus is a mineral that works along with calcium in order to promote bone health. With patients, with dialysis patients, now phosphorus is actually a big deal, because when you have normal kidneys, your body actually removes excess phosphorus so that you have a good balance of phosphorus and calcium in your body to help your bones stay strong and not brittle. Now, with a kidney issue, this is going to be a problem because this excess phosphate does not actually go out. The problem with phosphate is that it's always present in almost anything we eat, especially processed foods and dairy products as well. Now, if you're a big dairy fan, like you drink a lot of milk, you like butter, you like cream and cheese, this could be another problem, because those products are actually high in phosphorus levels, and when you have excess phosphorus, it can cause some symptoms like itching, red eyes, deteriorating bone health, tingling sensations, and the worst is the calcification of your blood vessels, which can lead to cardiovascular disease. Now, this is a topic that's actually very much hard to tackle with each patient, because when you're actually having them limit their fluid intake, food is another issue that sometimes they will not give in, especially for people who don't like eating fresh food all the time, or have not got the time to prepare their fresh foods and depend so much on fast foods. You will see them really with phosphate levels that is high enough that it's going to be hard to actually control. Ideally, phosphate levels that we're looking for is around 5 or 5, but these patients usually go over to an 8 or 9 or 10 at the worst. Now, what we do with these patients is we remind them of taking their medication, which what we call as phosphate binders. Now, the phosphate binders actually work in your gut. It acts like a magnet, that when you eat and you take these pills with you, the pills would actually try to absorb as much phosphate as it can from the food as it breaks down, and then you actually eliminate it. But when you open your bowels, when you go to the bathroom, you'll encounter a lot of patients having problem with these kind of issues, and discussing it with them is really very important, because apart from dialysis, the binders will be the only way to get rid of excess phosphorus in the body. And a lot of times people will actually complain of intense itching that not a good amount of Benadryl will help. It's all over the body, and also it can also affect their chances of getting transplants if their phosphates are really high. Although in some cases they still get a transplant regardless of the phosphates, but it's really important to get these patients have their phosphorus levels controlled, because they're gonna feel better overall in the long run anyway. Now, the last main topic I usually discuss with the patients is regarding their diet. You know that good eating well helps build up your protein levels, which we're looking for in dialysis is making sure that patients have good protein levels or albumin levels. These actually protein is important because it serves as fuel for you to get your energy to perform your daily tasks or for daily living. And also one of the functions of protein is also to help promote healing, especially when you've been in the hospital. Your protein reserves gets depleted because the body uses it, in order to heal your body for speedy recovery. Now, problem with some patients who came back from the hospital is their diets or their appetites is not very good, so you can see their albumin levels tanking down. Thus, their recovery is really slow, and it also increases the risks of them going to the hospital more frequently because they get sick all the time, and more often than not, then they miss their treatments because they're too unwell to come to their treatments. This is measured by albumin levels, and our albumin level that we usually go for is anything 4 and above. When you see albumin levels in your patient going down to, like, let's say a 3, it's going to be a warning sign already, because some patients actually don't go very far from a 3 unless they actually eat a good amount of protein in them. Getting to 4 is really hard for a lot of patients, especially the elderly. So what we do is, when the patient is actually between a 3 and a 2, or even between a 2 and a 3.5, we suggest giving them oral supplements. We have all protein products or protein supplements in hand on dialysis, which we give to patients who we know are in danger of lowering their albumin even further. Always ask them how their diet is, how this appetite's been going on. Sometimes you're going to have to prescribe appetite stimulants just to make them eat more. But in my case, I always tell them to eat as much meat as they can. Eggs, fish, poultry, beef, or pork, whatever they fancy. I tell them that if they like what's being served to them, if they can have an extra portion of it. But the easiest food to get your protein will be eggs anyway. So have them eat eggs every day. It doesn't matter which form. Sometimes they get tired of eating the same stuff, but if they actually cook it in different ways, an egg is still an egg, so they'll still get their protein regardless of what form it's cooked in. So in summary of today's topics, these are usually the questions you can ask the patients in order to check their well-being while you're rounding with them. And it can be applied to any patient in any clinic at any time. Just check on their dry weights when they come in here, when they come in their clinic. Check their anemia levels, check for any bleeding. Check their phosphate levels. Are they taking their binders? Are they eating high phosphate foods? And also ask for their diet. Are they eating well? Is their appetite good? Do they need any supplements? Are they able to swallow? Are they able to chew the food? Sometimes elderly people don't even want to eat solid foods because they have dentition issues. These are the kind of topics that you can actually discuss with every patient in every facility, and you can get going around the patients, and you can actually build a rapport until you're ready to delve further in their lab work and in their other problems. Also, when you discuss these topics with the patients, you're actually kind of checking their cognitive level as well, because if they answer really good, you know that they have sound mind and sound understanding. But if everything's going south with every question you ask, then something must be wrong with the way this patient is understanding me. So it's something, also an extra plus to look at, and so that you know how your patient's mental health is going. So thank you very much for watching the video today, and thank you for putting up with me. I hope you understood whatever I said, because I have the habit of stuttering or stammering or staring into blank space when I'm forgetting to what to say. I have a very nasally kind of voice, so sometimes it's very hard to understand. But if you do have any questions, just write it down on the comments below, and I'll try to answer them as the best I can. And till next time, peace.